If you're struggling to get healthy roots on your clones, you are not alone. Let's dial in your setup and turn things around. Come on, but before we do, today's video is brought to you by Real Growers Recharge. If you want stronger, healthier plants, if you want bigger roots for better fruits, you gotta check out Real Growers Recharge. It's like an instant compost tea that holds more nutrients at your root zone, breaks those nutrients down, and makes them more plant available, getting more of your nutrients into your plants. Find out more about Recharge over at realgrowers.com. And while you're there, use coupon code Scotty420 to get 20% off your first order. Now let's get back to the show. Come on, Hi-C, you want to dial your cloning game in?
Let's do it, man.
Come on. All right, you know what the first thing's going to be? If you've listened to the show, you can guess.
I can't guess. I don't listen. Apparently.
Environment, man. It's always about environment, especially when you're doing clones. Don't forget, you have no roots. These plants are meant to have a root system, so you've got no roots, so you've got to foster that root growth. And you know how you do that? The perfect environment.
Okay, yeah, so getting water into those plants is vital. That's what the roots do, nutrients as well. No roots, how am I getting water into the plants to help them grow?
Through the foliage. The foliage has these stomata. Remember, they open and close. They regulate the amount of moisture that's going in and out. So the idea is by having a perfect environment, when in that dome, the stomata are open. You've got, 95% humidity. It's dripping off the top of the dome. So those stomata are open. There's no roots, so that's where they are feeding, staying alive from.
Is through the leaves.
Yes, sir. The foliage.
Okay, cool. All right, so what am I looking for in humidity when it comes to my clone dome?
Yeah, you want humidity up 95%. You want it literally in the first, week or so, just dripping off the top of that lid, but you don't want it too hot. When it may be 80 degrees, I put a heat mat underneath.
All right, and I've seen your clone dome.
Sure.
It almost looks like a rainforest in there. What am I shooting at for temperature and humidity?
Nice and humid. I'm 95% humidity. I've got humidity dripping off in the beginning, in the first week, dripping off the top of the clone dome. And I don't want it too hot, though. I keep it right about 80 degrees. That'd be the hottest I would go if possible.
And I see you put a heat mat under your clone dome usually as well. What's up with that?
That's to get the humidity up. You put a little seed heating mat. I plug mine right there, about $10, $12. It doesn't have to be expensive. Plug it right into the wall. And it makes humidity from just evaporating a little bit of that water in the bottom of the dome. I get a dome with some thick ridges so the clones aren't sitting in the water. And then I just let the water evaporate up. And so it's just 100% humidity. It's like a rainforest in there. All right, this part is important. It took me a while to dial this in, but you have to start getting them when it's 100 or 95% humidity in there. They're breathing through those stomata, those little pores they have on their leaves, and so those are open. What we want to do is start getting it to make roots, stimulating it to make roots. So once the plant has established a callus, maybe a little bit of roots, then we want to start opening. The clone domes all have vents on them. Want to start opening those vents, and it gets the plant stimulates the root growth. Goes from just breathing from its leaves or getting all its nutrient and moisture from its leaves to start and stimulate that root growth.
And what's the time period? I know that right away you said 195% humidity.
Right.
When are you going to open up those and slowly start stimulating that?
When I see one little root coming out is when I do it. It takes about 7 days. The whole process for me takes about 14 days in the cubes. And by the way, I use those little rapid rooter cubes. I'll turn them upside down so they stand by themselves, so I don't need any kind of holder for them. And then I'll just poke a little hole in, put my clone in.
Okay, and for me, I'm thinking baby plants. They're probably the most susceptible to things going wrong.
Yeah.
If something goes wrong with my plants and clone, what are usually the usual suspects?
Man, the first one is just taking a clone from a weak plant.
Okay.
If you take a clone from a weak plant, what can you expect,
A weak plant.
Yes, and maybe it's got a virus or some kind of pathogen within it. So, yeah, I think that would be the first one, is take clones from the strongest part of a strong plant. Second one, it has to do with cleanliness, man. And that is, you can bring so many pathogens in from just dirty scissor, dirty, anything, man. So just sterilizing. I keep a little bit of bleach, does a really good job. Alcohol does a really good job. Diluted bleach, by the way. But yeah, something like that. Just remember that you're cutting this and you're exposing the internal parts of this of this tissue, plant tissue. You've got to make sure it doesn't get an infection, just like if we were to cut our own arm off. All right, hang on, High C. I got one more for you, okay? And it's not nearly as weird. Take from a well-hydrated plant. Make sure you have watered this plant before you are going to cut a clone from it, because remember we talked about osmotic pressure, the way the water gets up there.
Yep.
If it's a thirsty plant and I cut it, it's going to suck up an air bubble right away.
Right, and that can kill your plant.
That will kill your clone. So what you want a nice, well-hydrated plant. And then to avoid it from sucking up any kind of air, they have these rooting powders. I'd like a rooting gel because it does exactly that. It seals the wound, for lack of a better word. And then it's got the same rooting hormones that the rooting powders have. So I go with a rooting gel. I do have a favorite, Clonex.
All right, so straight from cut right into the rooting gel?
Yep, straight from cut, right in the rooting gel. A lot of people will do a 45-degree angle, and that is to expose surface, the most amount of surface area so it can root. Sometimes you can just scrape if you're using a razor blade. Use something really, really sharp. Razor blade's good because it doesn't bruise like scissors will. It's just shoop, and then 45-degree angle so you get a whole bunch of surface area for the rooting hormone to adhere to. And, man, you're on your way.
Okay, and I noticed your clone domes, we've got the AC Infinity ones over in the grow.
I got to shout out. That is awesome, man. $82, lights, temperature. I dig that thing.
That's what I was going to ask. I noticed that you have your regular lights on in your veg where your clones are at.
Yep.
But those domes, they have their own lighting. Is it a different type of light?
It's just little LED lights. These things aren't picky. If you have the right amount of light, 75, 100 ppfd, you start dialing it up a little bit, which a lot of times just means moving them closer to the light. For this, it actually has a little switch, man. It goes, I think, from 1 to 10. So a quick shout out to those guys. They do a good job.
And then hours of light. Is there a difference for hours of light for clones versus veg?
And for my veg, of course, I'm doing 18.6. I want to let the plant sleep. Theoretically, you should do the same thing for your clones. With the clones, what happens is it gives it time to where it develops. It sends those auxins that it made in the leaves down to the roots to make roots happen.
So how come you leave them on for 24 then?
Because it works anyway, and I have a consistent environment. I have it right in my veg, so it's going to be getting some residual light anyway, and you can do it. There's a bunch of ways to do this. It's not, I want to encourage folks to try it. You don't have to have everything perfect. Give it a whirl. If you understand what's going on, you'll probably have some success, and then there's always room for improvement.
Okay, so we went through a lot today. Can we do a real quick recap so I got it fresh in my memory?
Yeah. All right, let's do it, man. We'll start with cleanliness. You can say clones, you're making a big wound, so you get very easy to spread disease and kill them. So just make sure you start with clean instruments. A clean razor blade is pretty much all you need. What are we going? Environment. Oh, my God. Everybody's got smoke. I said environments. Yeah, I mean, you need it to be super moist, super humid in there in the beginning. I get a clone dome with big ridges in the bottom, so I'll put a little bit of water in the bottom to consistently let it evaporate. It's really important to have super high humidity. The heat mat is a big deal. Helps a lot. It helps that water on the bottom evaporate. But environment, you don't want it too hot. You want it perfect moisture. And then as you're dialing it in, as you're getting roots, you want to be slowly lowering that humidity. So environment's huge.
All right, and this wasn't in the script,
Sure.
but let's leave them with a bonus tip.
And I can't believe I left this one out, but this is a no-brainer. I soak my cubes in a diluted recharge solution. Before I actually cut the clones, I soak my cubes in a recharge solution. So as soon as it is stuck, as soon as it is in that cube, it is getting inoculated with mycorrhizae. There are bacteria that are fighting pathogens off that want to kill this thing. Give it a whirl, man. That one works. I'm very proud and happy to tell you that. Give that one a whirl. I'll get you hooked. And those are my best tips for having success with clones. But what about you? Did I miss something? You got an awesome tip to share? Let us know in the comments. And if you dug this video, come on, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Share this video with another grower you know. And check out the other couple videos YouTube is recommending. Hi C thinks you'll dig them.